don't know if you've seen, but I have covered every season of Supernatural in my retrospective series known as Supernatural Through the Ages. I broke them up into different sections based on the showrunner, and so I've already talked about my top 10 episodes from Eric Kripke's run, which is seasons 1 through 5. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 episodes from Sarah Gamble's run, which is for seasons 6 and 7. Let's go ahead and jump in to number 10. Time After Time is one of the few absolute gems that Season 7 actually has to offer. Time travel is always interesting when Supernatural uses it, since it's mostly a sci-fi concept. Seeing a fantasy show like this utilize time travel is just really cool to me. That being said, it's not really until those middle seasons when the show starts using time travel outside of mainly just plot episodes, such as season 4's In the Beginning or season 5's The Song Remains the Same. It starts to move into some really cool period pieces, and Time After Time is one of those. It sends Dean back to 1944 so he can meet Elliot Ness, who is also a hunter. It's a really fun episode, and I loved seeing Dean and Elliot Ness work together, and it's a novel episode that I think utilizes the time period very, very well. Kronos, who's the villain of the week, isn't anything really special, and he gets taken out anticlimactically like most Supernatural villains of the week, but that becomes a minor nitpick when talking about this episode. Overall, great time. I think it's apparent now, but I should say that the first chunk of my list is going to be dedicated entirely to the middle half of Season 7. Contrary to what a lot of people think, I think this is the strongest chunk of the season. It's got the wrap-up of Season 6 and the setup for Season 7 proper out of the way, and we can just have some fun one-off episodes that leave an impact. And this episode definitely does leave an impact for me. While it's nothing really unique in concept, in execution it's a ridiculously funny episode, and it's pretty Sam-focused, so that's always a plus for me. I think the episode does lag a bit in the middle, and the actual reveal of who and what is behind everything isn't the most exciting revelation. That all being said, I still think this is a major highlight in the usual bleak and dour Season 7.
Narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, now this one I could have.
I promise we're going to actually get into some Season 6 stuff, but the middle chunk of Season 7 strikes again with the Born Again identity. This time it's a more plot-focused episode than a one-off episode. The episode serves as the culmination and conclusion of Sam's ongoing arc with the hallucinating Lucifer, and I think it's really good. I'll get one thing out of the way already, and that's that the resolution of this is pretty disappointing. Wrapping up this entire plot by just having Castiel take away all of Sam's trauma is definitely lame, and it feels like the writers just wanted to get the arc over with and had no real idea how to wrap things up. Still though, this episode is really fun, and I always loved the Lucifer hallucination plot in general. Mark Pellegrino is hilarious, and it's even more of a treat in this episode. Seeing Sam in such a vulnerable spot was cool too, and placing an episode in a mental hospital with Sam as a legitimate patient was a really cool angle to take the episode in. So even if the wrap-up of the plotline itself suffers, I think this is still a great episode and one of the many highlights of Season 7.
I guess I could come over for dinner some night.
I don't think so.
There's the Season 6 representation. Weekend at Bobby's. This is the first honest-to-God one-off episode in Season 6, and when you know it, it's the best of the first chunk of that season. One thing this episode does is highlight one of the more underrated and underutilized aspects of Season 6, which is the concept of new monsters showing up that aren't usually in the way of our American hunters. Sam and Dean doing a hunt while Bobby carries out his day is really fun and is a really cool concept, especially while you know Sam and Dean are fighting a Lamia, I think is what it is in this episode, something that they don't usually find in America. I think that's really fun. Bobby's really funny, he's really likable, and he's extremely human, but he's also a bit of a jackass to the people around him, and I think that's pretty great. The subplot with Rufus is absolutely fantastic too. The episode also revolves around one of the few loose ends from Season 5, which is Bobby's missing soul, and I love the resolution of that with Crowley here. It's such a great episode and probably the best of the first half of Season 6. It's such a great episode, and honestly is the best that the first half of Season 6 has to offer.
You going to a hoedown?
Now this is a real episode. Frontierland is a really fun episode, not only in concept, but also in just how it executes itself as an episode. Most of the time, supernatural episodes can be fit into two camps, one-off episodes and plot episodes. Frontierland is a bit of both. You get this a lot in seasons 4 and 5 too, where technically the story itself is a self-contained adventure, but it furthers the main arc of the season storyline. Here, it's by allowing them to get to the Phoenix's ashes. It's another period piece like Time After Time as well, and like that episode, it's really fun in highlighting that time period. Seeing Dean get to be a cowboy is amazing, and I love how Sam acts as the straight man throughout the entire episode, grounding the duo and not letting Dean make an ass of himself. Just an overall awesome episode, and I like the sets, the plot is great, and again, the character stuff is really, really good. My main complaint is that the Phoenix in the episode is just some dude. He's not really even a Phoenix. But hey, that's an issue with Supernatural as an entire show, and not just with this episode in specific.
Don't say here's Johnny.
If Weekend at Bobby's was the best thing that the first half of Season 6 had to offer, then Appointment in Samara is the second best thing that Season 6's first half has to offer. Fed up with Sam's missing soul, Dean decides to ask Death, the Horseman, for help. What follows is probably one of the coolest concepts the show has ever executed up until this point. Death decides the only way that Dean gets his way is by having him take on the role of Death himself. Dean's brief stint as Death is both funny and tragic as we see him decide not to reap a 12-year-old girl with a heart condition. This creates a domino effect, leading to him needing to remove the ring, voiding his deal with Death. It stops a collision that would have killed dozens of people, but unfortunately Dean realizes that he has to put things right, reaping the girl that he saved anyway. It's a very heartbreaking and sad episode, and it's such a fantastic idea that really highlights Dean as a character, especially this far into the show. It allows him to learn a lesson not about fate necessarily, but about responsibility. And the only reason that this episode isn't higher on the list is because it has a stupid subplot with Sam trying to kill Bobby. Bro just summons Balthazar and has to kill Bobby for some reason to keep his soul out of his body. It's such a stupid and silly subplot, and unfortunately it brings it down from what could have been the number 2 or number 1 spot on the list. It's kind of unfortunate.
Hey, Sam. What, are you taking a nap down here?
It's rare for a season premiere to rank this highly for me, but similar to Season 4's Lazarus Rising, the opening episode of Season 7 is really good. This episode picks up directly after Season 6's admittedly strong finale, and I think it's all the better for doing that. If anything, this episode actually feels like it works better as a finale to Season 6 than a premiere for Season 7. Never mind all of that, though, this episode goes super hard. Death's role in it is so cool, and I love how Sam and Dean realize things got so out of hand that they have to summon Death. Castiel's transformation from Angel to a host of the Leviathans was sick, and the build-up for the Leviathans is really cool by itself. It's a very dark episode, but one that handles it well, and the plot moves at a quick pace while never feeling rushed or like they're trying to speed their way to the meat of the season. It's such a great opening episode. It's a shame the rest of the season turns out so middling, unfortunately.
I've been here for a very long time.
One of the many issues with Season 6 is how screwed up its plotline is. You never really know what's going on at any time in the episode or seasons, and episodes just jump all over the place with different arcs. Some episodes are dealing with a civil war in heaven, some of them with this woman named Eve who makes monsters, and some of them deal with Crowley and his pursuit of alphas. It's just a lot. And the cool thing about this episode is the writers realized that and made an entire episode to streamline that plot. While it shouldn't work, it absolutely does. Castiel's narration carries us throughout the entire episode and makes us believe that this is all one major storyline that just had a bunch of parts that needed to be put together like a puzzle. It makes a really solid case for Castiel as a villain, and the climax is absolutely terrific. It almost makes up for the disjointed and confusing pacing of Season 6. This episode is one of the main reasons that it even ends as strong as it does. It might have been too late, but it definitely wasn't too little, and I think this is one of the most iconic episodes of this era. A truly great look into Castiel as a character. It's definitely worth a rewatch if you haven't seen it in a while, but it's really crazy how much work this episode does to put together the pieces of Season 6's messed up storyline.
There's a key. There must also be a lock.
Yeah, this is probably the number 1 spot for a lot of people, huh? For me, it's really good, but I have my reasons for the number 2 spot. For one, I don't really care much about how it slots into the overarching plot of this season. I already mentioned that season 6's storyline is so scatterbrained and ADHD coded that it's hard to know what's going on at times, but the villain of this episode is just plain sucks. That being said, it's all just a vehicle to get Sam and Dean into this situation, and the situation itself is so damn funny. It's such a bizarre and wacky idea, and something you can only do in a season 6 where you're so deep into the show's own lore and the real world reactions to storylines and characters within it. The fact that we can have an episode that openly pokes fun at writers and producers who were working on the show in the past and were currently working on the show at the time of the episode is really, really awesome, and it's a real testament to the show's ability to make fun of itself while still delivering a fantastic episode in its own right. I will say shout out to Misha Collins though for live tweeting what his character was tweeting in the episode. Very funny thing to do.
Idiots.
When looking back at everything, Death's Door was unfortunately the only episode of season 7 and season 6 that I gave a perfect score. This is a great episode, don't get me wrong, but it's still, seeing the absolute drop in quality when making this video from seasons 1 through 5 was pretty astounding and pretty sad. I had a ton of perfect episodes throughout that era, and to only have one, it's really sad. Still though, it is a fantastic episode, and I'd probably put this over some of the perfect episodes of the first era. It's a fantastic and beautiful goodbye to Bobby Singer. It's not the last time that we saw him, but it was the end of an era. And while the circumstances leading to his death are pretty stupid, the fallout and the journey he goes on in this episode is terrific, and a highlight of not only this era, but of the entire show to me. It's emotional, it's heartbreaking, and most of all, a fitting conclusion to one of Supernatural's best characters. While some other spots on this list were fairly hard to fill out in place, I knew going into it that this would be the number 1 spot. If you don't remember it, go back and watch it. If you do remember it, go back and watch it. Just such an awesome episode of the show. And there we go. Those are my top episodes from season 6 and 7. Go ahead and comment down below your top episodes of it, and I'll see you in my next video.